The examples to be shown are applied to the construction of a house, but the principles involved may also be applied to larger types of construction. Besides good principles or methods, successful construction is dependent on 1, good planning, 2, good craftsmanship, and 3, good teamwork.
Miters are king. They're king because if you don't do them right on a job site, it'll kill your project. Whereas on the other side, if you do them properly, well, it'll rule the room to which they are installed in. So for this video, we're going to go over a special tool that can be used both in the natural stone and quartz industry, as well as the porcelain tile industry. The PSC-150 Saw Kit is a pneumatic, multi-purpose track saw for cutting and mitering hard surface materials. If you don't have a strong air compressor, don't worry. You can also order the electric PSC-150 version that can be used remotely using standard 110 volt power. The PSC-150 kit can effectively cut stone of varying densities up to 3 centimeters thick and is recommended for mitering material up to 3/4 of an inch. Each kit comes with 2 carriage assemblies, air and water hoses, 2 alpha stone cutters, and guide rails in lengths of 4, 7, and 12 feet.
I'll give you $50 for it.
$50? No.
At a cost of around $2,700, it is not on the cheap side.
It's just money. It's made up.
But comparing it to other miter track saws on the market today, there are some noticeable advantages that make the price worth the cost. In construction, there's the cliche, time is money. Well, with this piece of equipment, you're saving both. Why do I say that? Well, by having 2 saw heads running in opposite directions, you only have to set up your track once. That's time saved.
Then why are you smiling? Because I know something you don't know. And what is that? I am not left-handed.
Now, material saved is for the fact that if you do your mathematics right and if you lay out your stone slab, you do not have to worry about getting a drop edge cut from a much bigger piece. You simply just include it in your overall nesting and allow this tool to cut the miters for you. In the past, I've personally owned another miter track saw that used 2 Makita grinders attached vertically. By having one blade run backwards, it would glaze over quite quickly, preventing fast operation. After running it for just 10 minutes, I knew I had wasted my money.
What?
It's gone. It's all gone.
What's all gone?
The money in your account. It didn't do too well. It's gone.
What do you mean? I have $100.
Not anymore, you don't. Poof.
This machine design fixes that problem. Have you subscribed yet? Make sure you click the button because I have a bunch of other videos coming out soon. Although the setup looks quite complicated, it is remarkably simple. To begin, take the saw and place on the empty carriage. Make sure that the saw pushes up against the tabs depending on your orientation. Find the 3 bridge clamps in the saw kit. Using the bridge clamps, begin fastening the saw in place. But key point here, do not overly tighten. These should line up with the 3 openings on the carriage assembly. A small shortcut for the bridge clamps. The short leg goes on the saw plate. Your kit should come with 3 blade guides. They are etched with letters corresponding to their usage. S is for straight cuts. M2 would be for the second miter needing to be cut, and M1 would be the first miter you would approach. So go ahead and grab the appropriate adjustment blade guide for your current setup. These guide plates are designed to touch just the outer rim, the segment of your blade. So if you see contact throughout the middle of your core, make sure to reset. Something's not sitting correctly. The goal is to center the blade, not the saw. Verify that the guide is touching the blade on both sides. At this point, fully tighten down the bridge clamps. Double check with the guide plate once more so that you know you have the proper setup. Remove the blade guide and store in a dry place. One mistake that I made several times in the early goings as I learned to miter with porcelain is that I would not clean off the surface in between cuts. So what would happen? Well, a small piece of tile would get stuck underneath the carriage or the saw blade, and it would slowly etch a line across the surface. To avoid this problem, Alpha recommends using some of their black G-tape along the surface of the stone. The dense tape is thick enough to avoid debris from scratching the surface under the carriage assembly as the saw cuts. Just a small piece of tile can leave a big gouge and line. For this test, we are going to use some white Cosentino Silestone quartz. To avoid movement, I clamped down to the table with a Jernigan clamp. Next, I placed a track on the stone, measuring off the position of my cut point, 7 1/8 of an inch. Your measurement might vary, so always perform a test cut beforehand. Using the clamps provided by Alpha, slide the top of the clamp down the channel of the track and then securely fasten to the stone you are about to cut. Now, you can set your M1 saw, put on your boots, turn on the water, and let it rip. For thicker material, I would advise you perform a step cut. Roughly make your first pass at 1/4 of an inch cut depth. On each subsequent pass, lower 1/4 inch each time. By doing this, you keep the resistance low and the RPM high. It's my personal opinion that the most important part of a miter is the point to which the pieces come together. It needs to be at 90 degrees and it needs to be sharp. Whatever happens below the surface, it could be jagged, it could be badly cut, it doesn't matter because it's going to be filled with epoxy and no one will ever see it. Quartz can be very forgiving when it comes to chips.
They call me Chip.
You can't get them to stop?
A little microchipping is fine, as we would normally glue using color-coordinated epoxy tubes. The key thing I like is how fast I was able to get the miter cut. Overall, I am impressed at the solid performance of the softer quartz. It doesn't feel overworked or struggling to get through the material. The PSC-150 is real special in the sense that the track can stay stationary, but by having two units going opposite directions, you can effectively cut your miters that much faster. There's no secondary setup, no special jig that you have to utilize. However, this channel is based on porcelain and other ultra-compact materials. So let's see how the PSC-150 reacts when we put it through some Dekton material by Cosentino. It is important to consider what blade is appropriate. If you're using granite or quartz, you use the Eclipse 2 blade. But for porcelain and other ultra-compact material, they have two options, the Katana and the Libero. The Katana is made for faster cuts, where a sharp, clean edge is not as important as just getting the miter done. Whereas the Libero is suggested where you might be needing a clean, sharp point with minimal chipping. It's not as fast, but it definitely has a cleaner, sharper edge. Let's try the Katana first and see the overall quality. To switch blades, use a 22mm wrench and a 9mm socket wrench to get the saw's core bolt loose. Remove the bolt, the locking nut, and the old blade. Attach the new blade while being cognizant of the blade orientation. Insert and tighten the bolt and locking nut back into their original position. Double check the blade position by using the guide shown earlier in the video. After swapping for the Katana, we slice through the material at a pretty good pace. Removing the tape though, I noticed something that doesn't quite work for me. If you have hundreds of lineal feet to be mitered, the speed of the Katana would probably be a great option as well. Some folks in the industry say that you should have a 1/16 of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch gap between your two pieces of stone that then gets filled with epoxy or grout. And you might be able to color the joint to make the veining go across that line. As long as your customer is okay with that, go for it. No problem here. But for the average customer that I run into, that will not fly. They want a tight miter. So make sure you discuss with your client exactly what they are expecting from you. For me, tight is right on miters, so I need a crisp cut. I swap the Katana for the Libero and do a couple passes. I don't notice any decline in speed of cut, which is a good sign. Removing the tape, there is microchipping, as I would normally expect coming off of our $300,000 saw jet and beveling machine.
Ooh, this is nice!
To verify the cleanness of the cut, I use some Alpha G tape and dry fit a drop edge with the cut material. The pieces fit nicely with a minimal gap of around 1/32 of an inch that will be filled with epoxy.
Tight, 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 yeah! Blue, yellow, pink. Whatever, man, just keep bringing me that.
Should this be a piece for my clients, We would easily see this glued up and assembled in less than an hour. The Alpha PSC-150 has a lot of power, and if combined with the right blade, you get a great clean cut. For those looking to add miter cutting to their repertoire, this tool is a great option. I'm incredibly happy with the end result, and I'm sure with a few test cuts, any user can have a high-end miter to make their customers' dreams a reality. Thanks for watching my review of the Alpha PSC-150. I hope that you were able to learn something from the video and perhaps decided to bring it on into your own shop. Have you used some of Alpha's other tools? Have you tried out their blades? Let me know in the comment section below. But as always, you're not a pro unless you know.
Your part is necessary in order to achieve a successful objective. Remember, teamwork ensures success.